Welcome. Welcome back, man. Welcome back. What's up, everybody? Look, man, we're live. Weird. This is kind of weird. We're usually not live at this time. But I just, we're a week out from the draft. And I couldn't. I was like, we got to go live, man. Let's just have a little discussion because today's going to be a jam-packed day starting at 2 p.m. Eastern time. 2 p.m. I'm jumping over to Roundtable Sports. We're doing Fourth and Forever today. I think that's still happening. So got to jump over there for, or not, yeah, it's Fourth and Forever, for the NFL news that's recently going on, kind of give some takes around the league. But then, as mentioned, 4 p.m. Eastern time, it's going down, man. The mock draft is happening. The creator mock is taking place. I want to see if I can kind of capture some of that over here as well, like while we're live over there. But at worst case, I'll be live over there for that 3-hour time span as we go through that first round mock draft. That includes trades, and I'm still working on trying to see if I can get a deal done. I've actually had a recent conversation that I think is making this really interesting, and that's been with the LA Chargers. I'm trying to kind of like intrigue him to be like, yeah, this is interesting. like the LA Chargers right now, what he's looking for, I know he wants a tight end. I'm like, look, man, I don't think you're top two. All right, let me know if this is better. That should have turned off. If it's just an echo, it should have turned that off. But I was like, I don't think those top two tight ends are going to be there. I didn't want to tell him that, but I was like, I don't think that's going to happen. So if that's what you want, are you okay with taking Mason Taylor? Because the way I'm looking at it is like, yo, if he's cool with taking Mason Taylor, if he just wants the tight end, I got to like, yo, hey, moving down would be a very smart move for you. You know what I mean? Add an extra pick or whatever it may be. It's not exactly the trade details, but move up a little bit in the draft, still get your tight end. We're echo free. Fantastic. It's good to see you in here. But anyways, that's what's happening on the background. And right before, we kind of get to that side of things and still working on these trades. So I want to give some insight live over here as we're doing that live. But that's the move I'm looking at making because, initially I had my plan to be pretty aggressive. As time is getting closer, maybe urgency spikes when we get to the draft time, but nothing's really happened yet. So I'm kind of believing that may not go down. But if I could potentially get up a few spots, or there's a couple of guys that, because I'm drafting for the Lions, where it doesn't have to be like my favorite player to also believe that, hey, this guy works for the Lions. So I saw Jahad Campbell in the draft. I think that works for the Lions, right? So if he's sitting there and I want to be comfy about it, moving up to 22 can make a lot of sense. I don't know that he will be sitting there, but if he was, that would make a lot of sense. Jahdae Barron, I don't think he's going to be sitting there, but if he was, it would make a lot of sense. He's one of my favorites. Now, I don't think he's like a Brian Branch level player, especially against the run, but I like him a lot. I feel like he'd bring an immediate impact. You could find a spot for him on the field. He's played some safety reps. He's a guy that I could see, hey, if I can jump a few spots, get ahead of the Packers and Vikings, get that thing done, I'm cool with it. So I got that in back of my mind just so I know I can do it. But today, I want to talk about just like 5 names that maybe we've talked about a little bit, but maybe not enough. And they're potential options that have kind of been stuck in my head a little bit over the last few days. Not necessarily round 1 selections. They could be. These are higher draft picks. These are day 1, day 2 type of potential draft pick. Maybe one of these guys falls into day 3. I don't think so. But here's 5 guys that we've talked about a little bit, but not enough. And I think that they're interesting. When you think about how the Lions play defensively, they're intriguing to me. So we got 5 guys here. Let's jump right into it. Okay, we got to kind of go through this a little bit quickly. But the first one, and I got the graphic that I have isn't fantastic. Okay, y'all know we do the graphics, but the graphics isn't fantastic. But it's a picture of what the player looks like. Okay, so I'll throw that on the screen. If we got to jump into some highlights, we'll do that as well. What's up, Villain Squad? I see you in the chat. Okay, first player we have is, man, this guy is so interesting as a Lions fit. That's Jack Bech. Now, his story is, it's sad, man. It's sad. I mean, just what happened to his brother at Princeton. Then we saw him at the Senior Bowl. That was my first experience, with Jack Bech, and he, capped it off with the game-winning touchdown. He was fantastic down the stretch there. It was an emotional moment. And actually, if you watch, there's kind of like, it's not like a documentary, but there's like a little thing on the whole Jack Bech situation, what happened with his brother, Tiger Bech, and just how it kind of all aligned. The 7 seconds on the clock. His brother wore the 7, so he wore the 7, and the Senior Bowl ends up scoring the touchdown. It's pretty amazing. But as a player, I'm intrigued. As a Lions fan, I'm intrigued. And I think he brings a lot of traits to the game that not everybody's going to love. Yeah, there's things that I wish there was more of within this game. But for what the Lions, I think, look for in receiver, there's a couple of things that he brings that is so interesting to me. And I don't think he's going to go round 1. I don't think he has some of the traits to get into round 1. 6'1", 214 pounds. He tested out really well. He tested out incredibly well. 6'8", 3 cone drills, one of the best, especially for a side 19 bench press. The guy's a really strong receiver. And you'll see that he'll play with a lot of contact balance, plays with a lot of route strength. Kind of leans into that a lot of times to separate and win. But his hands are very reliable, right? He's a hands catcher all the way, which isn't necessary, but it's nice because he can get the ball level one, go out and get it. There's other guys that kind of let it into their body. Think of Jalen Knoll. I don't get that here with Jack Bech. I'm going to get a guy that's going to attack the football. You think about red zone situations, will attack the football. He's constantly there, and it's very consistent. It's a very consistent pass catching technique that shows up really at every level of the field. So you have that, right? You have the toughness. Again, there's some aspects that I would like to be better here, like a jump ball situation, but we don't do that a ton of either. As a separator, just in general, I think it's only slightly above average, but I think he runs his routes really well. And it's kind of that short area foot quickness that opens up the release package, even though he's not super dynamic off the ball. It opens up some of the release package. It opens up the ability to separate on all levels. He's a zone beater where, hey, if you're running this guy on some in-breaking route, second level, this guy's going to find windows. He's going to pace himself really well. He's going to work up the seam well. He's a very versatile piece for this offense too, right? Moving to a lot of different spots, played some inline tight end. But I think about Tim Patrick. I think about the future there, and what Tim Patrick had at value last year was, man, this guy could beat up zone coverage, and he was so good underneath, and he do work after the catch. And to me, Jack Bech brings a lot of those same things. He's not elite after the catch, but he's good. He's tough to bring down. This guy just puts the shoulder down and runs dudes over, right? So the transition isn't the most outstanding there, but he does a nice job when the ball gets in his hands. And I just think about some of the value that you have with Tim Patrick and what he added differently to that receiver room. And I think Jack Bech could actually carry that torch a little bit forward for you. And look, there's some people that look at him as, because of his athletic traits, more of a Cooper Kupp type of style. I can understand that to an extent because stylistically he does have some of that. So again, the separation upside, it's not going to be for everybody. I don't think you can get the round one because of that reason. But I do think for the Lions, man, he does make a lot of sense. You're getting a really tough player. I would be on board with this. At some point in the draft, I'd be on board with this. I mean, as soon as round two, depending on how early they wanted to go, I'd be interested in this, especially where we pick in round two. Like you're kind of all over the map at that point. So for me, I would be perfectly fine with Jack Bech. That one's super interesting. Okay, let's go to the next one. Now, this is a guy that we also haven't talked about a ton. He wasn't my favorite player on initial watch or just as a prospect in general this year. But he may be my top 50. I'm planning on doing a top 50 or a top 100 within the next coming days. He may end up somewhere there, maybe in the top 50, definitely in the top 100. That's Alfred Collins out of Texas. The main reason he's on this list is because, to me, schematically speaking, he fits how the Lions play. He fits what the Lions look to do with their defensive front. I mean, I would like to see him be a little bit more of a explosive piece, and I think that's the aspect that's missing a little bit. Not to say he's not explosive through the hips and he's got explosive power at the point of attack, just more twitchy in the lower body, right? Maybe a little more juice in the lower body, a little more explosion there when working upfield as a pass rusher. That doesn't pop as much. He also played in a lot of alignments for Texas, including lining up over the tight end in his 7 techniques. I mean, he was inside tight ends, outside tight ends. He was all over the place. So he'd probably be kicked a little bit more inside. But you think about what the Lions did, having a true nose tackle like a DJ Reader, having the backup there now in Roy Lopez, like this is the kind of piece that actually fits in really well with it because he is one of these guys that stylistically actually works for that scheme. And I think he has immediate potential impact. Now, we'll see where the ceiling goes to. That'll probably be the holdup for teams is trying to figure out like, yo, how much can we actually get to as a pass rusher here? Because right now he's got like this little nice spin counter that he gets to, but his plan doesn't feel like he really has one. It doesn't feel like he actually really has a pass rush plan. It just kind of turns into that because he's so agile for a big man that if you start to put together the kind of the traits that he has outside of being incredibly explosive upfield, I think his timing off the ball is fine for the run. You see some lateral juice, can kind of deal with outside zone schemes. I don't think he always positions himself incredibly well. Sometimes he'll pull himself out of gaps, but man, he's one of the most powerful players, one of the longer players, nearly 35-inch arms in this year's draft for a defensive lineman. And just that style fits a little bit closer to what the Lions like to do. Again, if there was more juice off the ball, I would be like, this is someone they're going to take. I would feel really comfortable with that. Because right now, it's not even just about like, well, what does he do as a pass rusher? Like, yeah, we need development there, no question. But he's got the agility. He's got the upside with the lengths. Like those things he checks the boxes of. And I think that's enough for the Lions from what we've seen. And he defends the run. He's tough, high motor, works over blocks, the hips, the core strength. The problem is to me, I just don't think he's upfield explosive enough. And that could cool the Lions on a player like this specifically. But I do think, 6'4", 320 pounds, this is kind of the guy that the Lions would typically go after. And this size makes a lot of sense alongside a DJ Reader, alongside an Aleem McNeil. And because of his flexibility, while he won't give you the juice early, you wouldn't expect that Aleem McNeil would give you. He can potentially come in and give you some of the run defense that Aleem McNeil could give you if he was available. And I think that's okay to look at, some of this is like, all right, this is for down the road too, because as a pass rusher, I think a lot of things you're looking at is, okay, down the road, what can we turn this into? He could be a little bit of pocket collapse, or maybe he's hands on a few footballs. I mean, if you want like a better winner right now, one-on-one, go Darius Alexander. So you may be thinking that's a little bit further down the road, but as a run defender, he's going to give immediate impact. And I do want to get better against the run. So Alfred Collins' flexibility makes sense to me. He comes in on this list as well, man. Again, a guy that we haven't given a ton of attention to, but he'll be probably pretty high when I get to my full order here, or however we decide to do that. Maybe that's just DT rankings, whatever that looks like. But I think he fits us. I think he fits us pretty well. Okay, let's go on to a player that we have done a video on before, but it's been a while since I've done a video on this player, and it's actually perfect because I think I tend to do this. I draft somebody in a mock draft, and then all of a sudden I come back and I'm like, all right, let me talk about him. I don't know why. I do this. I don't know, but here we are. I'm gonna go next to a safety because safety feels like it's absolutely going to be in consideration for the Lions. There's a lot of safeties that we like. It's just about, again, finding the right fit. Drafting for the Lions is different than drafting for any other team. So while there's multiple safeties I like, some guys you wonder, like, all right, what is he going to do against the run? How's he going to play the run specifically? Schematic, does he have the range to be a single high center field safety, or is it more of a, hey, he's a split field safety, right? Is it more short area quickness? What am I getting? Does he have the length, right? Is it ball skills? And to me, Kevin Winston Jr., at least stylistically, fits what the Lions do, right? He fits stylistically what the Lions would look for in a safety, the versatility Lions would look for in a safety. We talk about Jalen Reed. I like him a lot as well. But the first guy that I really loved was Kevin Winston Jr. He was one of the first guys that I put a really high grade on, at least in comparison to my other players, that I don't feel like had buzz. Now PFF Mock Simulator, they got him up there as a potential first-round pick. I don't think he'll go that high coming off the torn ACL. And I think that from the safety position, teams put a heavy amount of weight in kind of the football intelligence and the instincts, that part of the game. And to me, that's just slightly above average right now. Teams usually value that incredibly highly from a safety position, but he plays the game very fast. He's got 3-level ability. Play him in the box, play him at single high safety. You can kind of put him in different alignments. And to me, his ability to play man and zone both at a good level, that flexibility is what translates. I think he'd be valuable on special teams immediately. He's a physical player that you kind of utilize more as a strong safety. Put him in the box, let him work there. His ball skills are just average. I think that this would have to work out where he'd have to fall a little bit. Like, I don't think the Lions would be like, yo, we're going to go crazy. We're going to take him at 28. I don't think he's going to go that high. I'd be shocked if Kevin Winston actually went that high. Actually, I'm looking at this now. Let me do this real quick. Let me pull this up. But I'd be shocked if he went anywhere that high. I could see him going more potential round 3. Like, I could see him getting to that kind of range. But Kevin Winston Jr., I think stylistically at least fits the Lions. And it would take some time. But in the meantime, you could find a role at very least on special teams. It's just hard to draft that in round 2. So I don't know the Lions would go that high with it, but I think he will fall a little bit. And there's other safeties that have maybe more ball production that could just push in front of him. Heck, Jalen Reed could potentially push in front of him. But Kevin Winston Jr. is one of my favorites. I just like watching. But Penn State always puts out safeties that I like. Sometimes they hit, sometimes they don't, right? So there seems to be a little bit of that with those guys as well. But I think he fits in as a versatile safety. I want to draft 2 safeties again. We could. We could. Look, I'm going to be honest straight up. I forgot I drafted Kevin Winston yesterday. So I forgot when I drafted Billy Bowman next. Now, look, they can bring different value, right? I think Billy could honestly settle into the slot. He's going to be more and more comfy safety pieces that you could actually put in the nickel role. You could put him on a receiver, and he's not going to look out of place, right? A lot of these guys, it's going to get a little shaky when you do that, even including Nick Emanwari, in my opinion. But you put a guy like Bowman there, it's going to look more comfy. So they bring different traits. I honestly just forgot that I drafted Winston, so that's why I took 2 safeties. But, hey, they say take best player available, so that's what I did. Okay. I took best player available. That's what that was. Okay. Let's not not have that credit. It was just best player available. I meant to do that. Okay. We got 2 more players. One more. We're going to go back to receiver here. And he's growing on me. And that's Tre Harris. Now, I'm very curious to see where this player goes just because of his skill set, just because of like how much our team's going to believe they can tap into this. And I don't think Tre Harris is like a lock for round 2. I actually think he may fall a little bit. Now, maybe the vertical ability, the double move capability, who he did it against in the SEC, maybe that pushes him higher, and it wouldn't shock me. I mean, he didn't test out incredibly 4.5, 440, the arm length sub 32 inches, showed some real explosiveness, has injury concerns. Like, that's a player to me that's going to fall a little bit. Maybe he goes way higher, right? He could outdraft, I think, the Lions position. But if he starts to trickle down a little bit, maybe you get to like round 3, You're sitting there with that pick 102 and you're like, we kind of like that guy. What if we made a little jump to go get him? Tre Harris to me would be a very interesting fit. Very different to me than Jack Bech. And a lot of my critical factors are just slightly above average. They don't really stand out, which is the problem here. But again, I think he's a nice route runner. I think he's a really nice route runner, actually. I think he plays with real savvy to his game. The way that he wins the routes that he went. Now, he doesn't maybe have the most diverse route tree. And but ultimately, what he does run, he wins those routes. And it's because of a lot of his positioning. He has a lot of discipline as a route runner. He racks up a lot of production, only 5 drops on 60 receptions. So a lot of that was like, hey, throw it quick, just stand there and catch the football. I do like what he gives you after the catch, though. He doesn't, to me, make a lot of guys miss, which is the problem. I don't think he's got a ton of shake or make you miss. What I do like is how fast he transitions. The ball gets in his hand and he's gone. Ball gets in his hand, he's rolling. That, to me, is one of those. Not everybody has that. You don't find it a ton. Sometimes it's actually the reason he has those 5 drops last season is because of the fact that he transitions too fast. But also at the same time, in a lot of cases, because of the routes that he's constantly running on those, it's hitch routes, right? He's just running 3 yards and he's turning around, or he's running a quick, or it's a screen. Because of the routes that he's running, that's going to happen. For me, I always value guys that can transition, and it's something that was ingrained in me a while back when I started doing the scouting stuff. Is like, yo, guys that can get it and go. That's not something that receivers carry. Just because you're fast doesn't mean you have that. He's 4.54, but he transitions better than a guy like Jack Bech does. Ball gets in his hands and he's rolling. I wish he did more with the ball in his hands and made more guys miss, but he's another tough player. Pretty smart player. I think Tre Horton's one of the smartest receivers in this year's draft, so we'll have to keep an eye on him. A good communicator, good positioning, understands his sticks, that kind of thing. But Tre's ability with the ball in his hands, it's a well-rounded nature. The drops, I don't think he has the best hands. I think they're slightly above average. I think his technique could use a little bit more, use a little bit more improvement to it specifically. And it's not the most natural. I think he's a little bit loose with the ball when he's kind of getting it to his body. That's where Jack Bech intrigues me more, and he'd be a higher draft pick for me because Bech, you're going to be very comfortable. Like at worst, this dude's going to catch the football. He's going to finish all of those things. But to me, I'm not really concerned about his hands. I don't think they're fantastic, but I think his high point timing is better. He can go up and get it a little bit. So I think there's some of that. He's more comfy on level 3 routes. He kind of changes pace tracking the ball. Did he play against press often or no? I saw him against press some. I would say more so than I saw him against than a guy like Jack Bech. I saw him against press more than that. A lot of teams don't play press in college, but I thought that he had an ability to go off the line. The thing is, he doesn't have the most diverse release package. It's a little bit more basic. And to me, he doesn't play with a ton of stop, start, twitch, which is a problem, but he's much more of a body control piece, right? He's got some shiftiness in the upper body. He can be a little bit difficult to connect with at the line of scrimmage. He's got some juice, too. If you watch him, when he kind of goes into his kind of walk-up release or that 2-step release, and then when he rolls, it creates separation immediately because of some of that burst that he carries initially upfield. He can actually stack guys early. It's just maintaining the stack, which actually becomes the issue. So I think some of the vertical nature is, one, because he runs a lot of discipline. So when he runs hitches, when he sets up double moves, they're very disciplined. You see the post corner routes, they're very disciplined. But it's also the flip side of when he gets going, like when he gets out of his release, he can create immediate separation. Then it's about maintaining that, which becomes a problem. Guys will kind of get back in his hip. You'll see it on skinny posts. They'll kind of roll with him. They'll be able to stay with him on the play. So I think his 40 time actually pops more so than anything, but that's because he can go. He's got some agility off the ball that I didn't expect for his size. So I think it's adequate. He's got a little single step, kind of a speed release. He can stride out a little bit early. It's not outstanding off the ball, but there's enough there that I'm okay with. And, again, especially today, like a lot of teams don't press anyway. Like we're one of the rare teams that will press guys. So I don't have huge concerns there. I don't think he's outstanding there. I think he could get held up a little bit, get limited in some spots because he's not that twitchy off the ball. His release package could be a little bit limited, which could be a problem. But Tre Harris, to me, would fall a little bit further in this case, and he could make some sense. Now, the last player that we have, again, one that we've talked about a little bit, but, man, the more I look at it, and this to me has round 1 potential. I don't think it'll happen round 1, but it's got round 1 potential just because of who needs who around us in this year's draft. And that's going to be an offensive lineman, Josh Conerly Jr. I didn't put the junior on there because it didn't fit. Just throwing that out there. If it fit, it would have been on there. It just didn't fit. So just as Josh. Oh, I moved the box a little bit. Josh Conerly Jr. This is an offensive lineman that the more I watch, I think this could go to guard. The more I look at him, I think this guy might work at guard at the next level. And that's what intrigues me. Now, the flexibility, right? We look at the perfect scenario. We'll just draft him as a guard. And then when Decker retires, you put him at tackle. And there's a lot of guys where it's like, hey, that's fun, but it's like, okay, maybe that's not very realistic. Conerly actually could have that future in his game. I wish he had a little bit more kind of bend and looseness to his game, and that would make me feel more comfy about moving him to tackle and leaving him at tackle. But I do think that some of the issues that I have with him would actually translate better to guard. He's got the build for it, 6'4", 313 pounds. This is a couple year starter here. He has the build to kind of settle into guard. And I think when you watch the way that he moves, it makes you believe, like, okay, he's quick enough off the ball. When he jump sets guys, it's explosive, right? He takes away airspace just like that. And when you watch him kind of redirect laterally, it's smooth. There's not a lot of false movement. Now, he'll overset, but there's not a lot of false movement. He kind of slides. You put him in a smaller, contained space. That could be a little better for guard, right? He's not the most athletic as a puller, but when he does connect with guys, he's got some finishing mentality to him, and I do like how smooth he is off the ball. There's not a lot of false movement within his game when getting off the ball. He's got some drive through contact that opens up some sustainability as well. He's not an overly powerful player to me, which could be some of the knock here in terms of some of the core strength just in general. And I think he could put on some more mass, fill out his frame, which could work a little bit better at guard. Like, hey, maybe we bulk him up a little bit, and that may be some of the reason why people like him at tackle. I think it could be just down the road, but I think guard, if there's an immediate spot where it could be more consistent, guard might be that spot for him because there's things that would get him into trouble at tackle. I don't know how much that would show up as much at guard. Like, I don't think I don't like the idea of saying tackle to guard, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, you know, that works better. Like, not everybody, but I actually think he has a skill set that does translate to guard specifically here, and he's smooth enough to do it. There's some things I don't like without hands. I don't like how he lets some guys get in his chest, but he's very patient with his hands as well. And some of the recovery issues that pop up at tackle, I think would be better at guard because he's going to kind of stick in front of guys a little bit better. He anticipates stunts. There's some football intelligence to his game. He could stay square throughout a rep. He's got a good lateral redirect, as I pointed out. He does a nice job of limiting false movement. I think that he looks like a guy that could play guard. So whether teams view him as guard or tackle will be the interesting case here. But with all these tackles and everybody has knocks and you're not really sure about a lot of these guys, and a lot of them feel like they could be guards. For the Lions, yeah, last Oregon O-line was pretty darn good. Now we draft the other one. We plug him in there, right? Not Cornelius, maybe Conerly, not Cornelius, but we plug him in there. There is actually flexibility to his game, but I think he might work at guard, man. And to me, the upside is there for starting potential down the road. Like he's got enough up to the second level where it's like, okay, there's enough athleticism here where there's scheme versatility to his game, right? So maybe you have to bulk him up a little bit to be comfortable with him at guard, but I think there's enough there. And that's what intrigues me about Conerly. So I'm not like sold this is going to be the first pick at all, but I think it's on the table. Like the more I think about it, the more I think this is legit. I think this is legitimately on the table. If you told me the Lions 2 weeks from now say, hey man, they took Conerly at 28, I'd be like, I get it. Like I'd be a little bit surprised maybe, but I'd be like, I kind of get it, you know, because like, especially with who's behind them, like they're going to go. And you're looking for a guy that can play on the interior, but the flexibility doesn't hurt. So he actually translates to guard for me pretty well. Those are the 5 players we haven't talked about a ton. Wanted to throw them into a video. We'll have more. I want to do another like rankings thing, trying to figure out how exactly I want to do that, whether that's all position groups. I think that maybe the best move is like on the weekend. I can just like list the top 15 for every position group and just do it as one massive video, one massive live stream, something like that. That may be the best way to pull this off time-wise. But or maybe that's a top 100. Y'all let me know, man. We just see a top 100 all position. I think by position groups a little bit easier, just because then as we're going through the draft, we can just have that list. That's what I'm kind of thinking. It's kind of what we did last year. That I'll just do that. But I did want to say, shout out to Quinn Clarkston. 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 I've never heard of that. Okay, I like that. In the building. I do think, and the more I think about it, 28, as mentioned coming in, because I'm trying to draft for the Lions tonight. Jahad Campbell will be, I'm not the highest on him, but Jahad Campbell makes a lot of sense for the Lions. And I was thinking about this last night, actually. Like, I was playing some basketball, and I was thinking about it. It stuck in my head. I'm like, he feels like he could be a Lion. Like, the flexibility he adds, the background of the player, the toughness, the way that he's found a way to get on the field, that feels like a guy the Lions would draft all day long. And it wouldn't shock me if they said, we're going to move up to go get him if he fell a little bit. So, to me, he's in play, especially because the injury thing, the Lions could be more comfy with that coming off of a little bit of time there. Again, to me, the instincts are just slightly above average. A lot of guys are, but I'm not, again, he's not my highest. I got Demetrius Knight above him, but he's much younger. I got Carson Schwessinger kind of in a similar range here, but I think Jahad Campbell just makes more sense stylistically. Jahdae Barron will be on my mind when we get to this draft as well. If I can potentially, if he's like there at, early 20s, I'm going to try to make a swing to go get that done. I'm just throwing it out there, but I wouldn't like trade to 15 and give up a ton to go get him, but he'll be in consideration for me. He'll be in consideration. So I'm trying to keep everything open on the table. I have no idea how this is going to shake out, but I'm still working through trying to get a deal done or at least have a potential deal in place. I will say this. Let me give you all a little sneak peek spoiler because you got to tune in. 4 p.m. Eastern time on Bleacher Report. Download the app. It may be on YouTube, but I don't know. We're doing a 3-round or a 1-round creator mock draft live for 3 hours. It's going to be awesome. All right. It's going to be a high level quality. It's like you're watching the real draft. And I'm picking for the Lions. But I will say there is a trade that I have agreed to make if I can't get up in the draft. So there actually is a trade that's likely going to be listed for the Lions, regardless if I can get anything done in terms of moving the board in the first round. If I can't get anything done, there will probably be a kickback trade that you'll see at some point, maybe it's when we're on the board, that we end up agreeing to. And I was working on that last night. I don't want to say who the player was. I want to leave some intrigue. It's not the craziest move, but I was working on it last night. And we came to agreement. It was like, all right, we can do that. We'll make that happen. And it feels like a Brad Holmes type of move to make the kind of move that I made. So it's for a player. I think it's fun, and that'll get shown off tonight. But yeah, and you know what? And hybrid linebackers are the Lions, right? Like they'll interchange those guys. Guys that can play on the ball, they find a value in that. The Lions do that, right? Some other teams may be a little more straightforward. Like, obviously, Campbell's different than Alex Anzalone, but everybody on our front 7, like, you could say the defense line too, but everybody in that back room can move positions. I mean, Malcolm Rodriguez was playing on the ball well last year, right? That's not maybe what you want him to do, but he was comfortable there. You put him on the ball, it's like, all right, Malcolm Rodriguez looks pretty good here. Trevor Nowaski. You had everybody moving around. Think about it. Even when we got injuries late in the season, you had I can't think of the dude's name, but he was playing on the ball, and he actually did pretty well as he got more snaps. There was towards the end. I mean, everybody's playing on the ball because of injuries, but everybody's flexibility was valued. And Alex Anzalone has played on the line of scrimmage. Jack Campbell was doing it as a rookie. The Lions value that. They value it, I think, especially because of injuries. And I think that Jahad Campbell has that. You some of these other guys, you may feel more comfortable with what he is now. He at least has that where you're like, all right, I'm going to draft him, but he could play any of these spots. And we can find a spot year one to give him some rotational snaps. It's behind Barnes, rotating it off ball. And then as we go forward, we'll just plug in where we need him, and he'll be the future with Jack Campbell. And to me, he's best suited as a will linebacker that can work in coverage. That makes sense for the Lions. So he's up there for me tonight. All right. That being said, I appreciate y'all joining me. I'm going to leave it here. Join me over at Roundtable Sports. We're about to do Fourth and Forever. And after that, 4 p.m. Eastern time, man, make sure you tune in. We're going to be live on Bleacher Report. First round mock draft, creator mock draft, live. It's going to be massive. I'm fired up. Last year we got Rakestraw, and it ended up happening. So maybe we do something again this year. Not the first round, second round, but it ended up happening. So, maybe we pull something like that off again. All right, I'm out of here. Enjoy the rest of your day. Appreciate you joining. Brent, I see you, Brent. Quinn, Detroit Lions, bad guy. Man, I love the mock drafts, by the way. Seeing all the mock drafts. You inspired me when I see your mock drafts. I'm like, all right, I got to get on it. You know what I mean? Draft can be posted on YouTube after. I don't think I can post it because it'll be like it'll be their content, but it'll I'm going to see if I can do something live on the side potentially, but I will say that they may also stream it on YouTube. I don't know, but it's one of those events that I think they've streamed on YouTube before because it's pretty darn big. So I would also say maybe it'll be on their YouTube channel. I know it'll be on their app, but maybe it'll be on their YouTube channel, but it probably won't be on mine. If something's on mine, it'll be different. But yeah, I'm going to end it there. Appreciate y'all joining. I'll see you soon. I'm out.